Good evening, everybody. Maybe I should say good Yontif. Shlomo asked me to speak. He told me not to speak about Christmas, and I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to speak about Nitl, Erev Christmas. And in doing so, I have to be very cautious. I read a rather long description about this in Nitl Gavriel. One of the Hasidic Rebbes was caught studying on Erev Christmas, on Christmas Eve. And he said to something rather sarcastic to somebody who asked him to do it, he said, there's not really a big place in hell for people who study Torah after all. The reproach to him was, however, people who mock traditions of Israel, they in fact do get severe punishment in Gehenna. So I have to be very careful because for most of us this is really something of Purim Torah, you might say. Well, there is a tradition of not studying Torah on Christmas Eve. Jeff Hecht told me that his grandfather joined a rather august group, played chess. Today, preparing for this talk, I found a picture of not one but two Lubavitcher Rebbes, the 6th and the 7th, playing chess together on Nitl Nacht instead of studying. Other traditions, not to sleep, or to sleep early and then wake up at midnight, not to engage in marital relations. One of the commentators said, but all the singles have the matzah balls and whatever, and you wonder what's going on with that. And the most famous one to me is the one that was hardly mentioned at all in the sources, playing cards. Some of you may remember, some of you went to the TRI, may remember Daniel, a Russian watchmaker, who told me his father would play cards every year on Nitl Nacht, but he would write them out, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, so that he would play not the secular cards, but the religious cards. He wouldn't be studying Torah. The most interesting, and you might say, La'inyan, the one that goes to the heart of the subject, was that instead of studying Torah, they would study Toldot Yeshu, a rather scatological history of Hahu Gavra. What is this all about, and what can I say about it in only a few minutes? Well, first of all, the word. My own feeling is that Nitl comes only from Natal, the day of birth. I found things Talui and Nital, both spelled with Taf, for Talui the hanged one, and Nital mi'olamo, taken away from from this world. And there are good Talmudic references. I just think it's just the Latin word Natal, the day of the birth. How old are these traditions? Well, there are lots of old traditions about being aware of our neighbors who happen to be Christians having observances. The earliest reference that I found that sounds like not studying Torah, has to do with the Maharsha who died in 16-something. I wrote it down, but I didn't write it down here. 1642, thank you. So in other words, the late 16th century, early 17th century, several hundred years ago. And earlier references, as far as I could tell, just looking at the Nitl Gavriel, probably didn't have to do with not studying Torah. The source of the custom and the reason why, the biggest reason that I can think of is because of actual danger, which is actually quite important today. Since today there is not all that much danger from having rowdy Christians come and beat up Jews if we're studying Torah late at night. If in fact it was mipnei sakana, this is something saying we ought to be studying Torah or not studying, whatever we normally do, we shouldn't really worry about it too much. On the other hand, I found one interesting reason. Shem Havaya is worth 26, and you multiply that by 2 and you get 52 weeks of the year. Yaakov is 182, multiply it by 2, that's 364. 52 weeks of the year, 52 Shabbatot, times 7, 364 also. That means you have a day and a half each year where you don't study Torah. Tisha B'Av, 24 hours, and Nitl Nacht for 6 hours. And it goes on and on. Many of the reasons that are given are quite amazing. The date. The Psak Halacha, as we follow, Chukot Medina. Whatever the Medina does, here they observe December 25th, that's my psak. You should do that. But I found people who observed 2 days, one according to the Russian custom and one according to the Polish custom, because the Russians kept the old calendar, the Julian calendar, and the Poles had the Latin calendar. Some people said it should be on the Tekufa itself. You know, a couple of days ago, we had 60 days after Tekufat Tishrei, we started saying Tein Talu Matar, and 30 days later, that's when they would say, and they would even parse the time. If the Tekufa began by a certain time, they would study that. They would not study that evening or go on to the next one. I don't want to go into much greater detail, but I'll tell you one story, and then I'll have one more thing to add. Rabbi Yonatan Ebershut supposedly was asked by a komer, by a priest, if the world stands only because of studying Torah, how come you don't study Torah on this night? His answer to the priest was, Minhag Yisrael is like Torah. And therefore, this time, our doing of Torah is in fact not studying Torah. If this is a true Jewish holiday, we have to have a blessing. And I'm going to end with the blessing that was given by... Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm going to study Torah at 8 p.m. tonight. If anyone is interested in studying Gemara with me. Thank you.
This is from a CD by Mandy Patinkin, the Yiddish translation by Moshe Rosenfeld. The words come from Irving Berlin, a nice Jewish boy. Seid gebencht und glücklich und fein, sollen eure Nitl Nacht weiß sein. Those people who understand Yiddish will get the reference. Rabbi Hananya ben Akashya Omer, Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Yisrael, lefichach yirba lahem Torah mitzvot shene'amar, Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir.
Gadol Yekadash Shemir Allah.
15:10.